Ready, starting recording.
Okay guys, welcome to another Jupiter Force MACO session. Today we have an engineering session and we'll have two hosts, Tracker and Lord. Lord, you're up.
Yay! Alright, well, as mentioned, this is about the engineering section of PvP. The main goal of being an engineer is essentially to take damage. Most ships that are designed for engineers are cruisers. They have high shield modifier, high hull, low turn rate, and cannot equip cannons because they won't be able to use them. The main weapon used for engineers is beam rays because they don't really have much of an option. As mentioned, their primary goal is essentially to take damage, but they also have a secondary goal of either healing or to deal damage as well, because if you're not getting yourself recognized, then you won't be taking any damage, so you'll have no reason to use your heals. There are many abilities within the engineering profession that can provide both heals to yourself and to your allies. There are abilities such as, well, the main abilities are transfer shield strength, which is a very generous shield heal over time, which is also used to cleanse debuffs.
And one moment, and it's important that ability has 10-kilometer range.
Yes,
and the next one is extend shields. It has I think 7, so have that in mind. Go ahead, Lord. Sorry.
Yes, the abilities within the engineering profession are used for the two main methods. They are shield tanking and hull tanking. Shield tanking is the most commonly used one because it's easier to do. There are far more shield heals for both yourself and your allies than there are hull heals. The main ones, as mentioned, are transfer shield strength. The one that can only be used on your allies is extend shields. There is also emergency power to shields, which is a very nice buff to use. It's generally used at the beginning of a strike because it not only provides regeneration to your shields, but provides, as mentioned, a buff to them, so it will reduce the damage. That way you can survive the onslaught better. Another ability is reverse shield polarity, which converts any damage incoming into your shields. Also makes you immune to teleports for a while, which can be very useful. It's essentially used as an oh shit button, because if you're being attacked by a couple escorts and they're dealing a lot of damage, your shields will go down pretty quick, as will your hull through bleed through, which will still happen with the reverse shield polarity, but your shields will go back up and reduce the damage. Hull tanking is a bit harder to do, but is not impossible. There are abilities like hazard emitters, which can regenerate your hull over time. There is a quick heal, which is auxiliary destruction integrity field. That's got a cooldown of 15 seconds, which means it can be used rapidly. Unfortunately, it drains your auxiliary power, which means you won't have anything healing you naturally. We've seen many different tanks. A decent tank will be able to handle pretty much anything that tries to attack them. The prime example of this is the Odyssey that we can see here with 8 of 10. It's got one of the highest base hull, a very high shield modifier, and it's got more than enough engineering abilities for both yourself and your allies. It's not really capable of dealing much damage. It can deal a decent amount if built right, but it's mainly used as a healer because of its buff slot.
So let's demonstrate. Let's two guys from the other team attack 8 of 10 in the audience.
Very well.
Oops. Come on, Becca. There you go. Did you see how he healed from 2% to 50%?
Incredible,
So,
yeah.
Would that not be the...
okay, that's it. That's okay.
Would that not be more of a miracle worker?
Yes,
Thanks.
that's why tanks are normally used within engineers, because they have a natural ability of Miracle Worker, which heals a significant amount of their hull. Although most of the secondary abilities that are used for healing generally mean you won't need to use that unless you've got 2 or 3 people attacking you, as demonstrated. If a single escort is attacking you, even if it's a vaporizer, well, vaporizer's a different territory, but if you've got a high-powered escort like the Tavaro I'm flying, you won't really need to be using the Miracle Worker, because it's going to be difficult to get the hull down that far anyway.
So a Tavaro is not only a good tack ship, but it's also good for Scion Edger.
Engineering, no. It's far
No.
too squishy. You can make it survive a decent amount, but it's naturally good for damage. Science is okay. There aren't really many options for that on the Romulan, but that's for another session. Engineering, as mentioned, is best. You best stick to cruisers, because they don't really need to move anywhere. They don't really need to be dealing damage. They can, if built right, with maybe an aux to bat.
I
You
will.
have to be very careful with those.
I will correct you. Go on. Hold on a second. I will correct you. The engineers are just not good in the cruisers. They are also good in the sand ships. Just a note.
As mentioned, you can put an engineer into an escort and make them survivable, but you won't be doing anywhere near the potential you can. Engineers are designed to absorb damage, not deal it. Not to say that they can't do that.
Or heal other teammates.
Heal.
You need to be transferring abilities to your allies to heal them. In a well-built team, you'll have escorts and science vessels debuffing and striking, and the engineer will be keeping them alive, because they'll be the main targets. But with the abilities focused on yourself, you will be able to keep yourself alive, because if you're healing people and keeping them alive, people will go for you, because without support, the others will die. The abilities that can be transferred to other people are hazard emitters, transfer shield strength. I believe auxiliary to structural integrity field can be transferred as well. As mentioned before,
Extend
you
shields.
have extend shields, yep.
And EPS 3,
Yeah,
which is engineer power.
Also,
yep. EPS power transfer, and you can also transfer your team abilities: tactical team, engineering team, and science team. They're good for shield distribution and debuffing. Well, not debuffing, removing debuffs.
actually, also today, due to now removing the cooldown between science team, tactical engineering team, team 3 is also very useful for insta hull popping.
It's a very, very useful ability to have. Generally, the buff layout for an engineer will include at least 2 copies of emergency power to shields, because they have a very quick cooldown, and you can just have them cycling as you're being attacked. You can also have at least 1 reverse shield polarity. If you're generally under attack quite a bit, you may want a second. Definitely an engineering team for the quick hull heal for yourself and your allies. You'll want an extend shields to heal others as well. If you have a spare slot, I would recommend going for an auxiliary to structural integrity field, probably a 3 if you can.
What sort of shared cooldown do those abilities have, though? They would have a shared cooldown, wouldn't they? Having to.
Some of them does, but
Emergency power to shields has a cooldown of 15 seconds, so you can just be cycling them.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, reverse shield polarity, I forget what that is. It's a 2-minute cooldown. The others are generally between 1 and 3 minutes, depending on which ability you go for. The as mentioned, there are ones like emergency power to shield and auxiliary destruction integrity field, very quick heals, so they'll be used quite a lot.
Right.
That's why you want to have multiple copies of them.
Question. Everybody knows exactly what engineering ships are for the Fed and KDF. You've got the Federation cruisers, the Klingon battle cruisers, but with the Romulan warbirds, which are the best ships to go for, since
The
they're all
Derdex.
labeled.
The Derdex.
The
labeled
Derdex. The Derdex is the best out.
Awesome
Yeah.
buff layout.
Yeah, the Derdex is the best for outright tanking. The Scimitar can be built as a very good tank, but it's primarily designed for damage. It is still, because of its size and its high hull, and it's got a decent buff layout, it can be used for good tanking and damage at the same time. Not very good as a healer, though.
But for Romulans, the Derdex.
Yes, the Derdex. The Derdex, because you have also lots of.
Well, we know the Scimitar can be a good tank because of Dust Mop.
Yeah, but I'm talking about ships that are not in game. I'm talking about what Delan, Mogai, those type of low-level ships. Which would be best for them?
No, we're not.
No.
No, for ships, we're talking about the tier 5s. Lower level, disregard.
Yeah, and if I say the Derdex, I mean fleet the Derdex.
Always go for a fleet version if you can. So as mentioned, the Mogai and the Delan, they are primarily escorts. The Mogai is a slightly it's a slightly heavier escort, so it can tank a little better, but it's nowhere near a pure tank. The Derdex is the only one currently for the Romulans.
Or Scimitar.
Scimitar is okay, but it's primarily used for damage and tanking.
I mean, I know it's not as good as the Derdex,
but it can be.
You can still kind of class it like you think. Kinda.
It has potential, yes.
Okay, any more questions? Feel free to ask.
Yes, one more.
Yeah.
Those ships that come in packs, like this, for instance, the Scimitar, or the 10-pack Dyson ships, specifically referring to the Dyson ships, are they any good at tanking and engineering style play?
No.
No, that's why engineers mainly go for cruisers and ships like the Derdex Warbird. The other ships can be used, but they're nowhere near as good as a natural cruiser.
Right.
Got you.
Yeah, to tell you the truth. Go on.
That's why we choose things like the Odyssey and possibly the Avenger, because it is technically a battle cruiser, and the Galaxy Dreadnought. Those are the main tanks used because they've got such high hull, it's very difficult to take them down one-on-one. If built right, almost impossible.
What about the regular Galaxy?
Galaxy in itself, very good. The Galaxy X has more potential though because it has a hangar bay and can potentially deal a lot more damage, which gets it recognized.
Right.
As
the
mentioned
potential
before,
for the regular Galaxy is still there too.
Still there. But as mentioned, you need to either be dealing damage or healing very well in a cruiser, because if you're not doing either of them, you won't be noticed, and people will have no reason to attack you.
You're pretty much useless in a
You'll
team.
be just ignored, and they'll fire at something else.
Yeah, there'll be no reason to use your abilities, so people will just leave you, and you'll be a pointless member of the team. Or
Yeah.
we used to call them zombies.
Yeah, zombies. Anyway.
Yeah, go ahead, Shans.
No, I just want to say, yeah, they're called zombie cruisers, and if you're playing that playstyle, people or teammates will more hate you than love you. So that is best if you either go as a healer or create a tank, but that also is a more team and friendly oriented, you know, at least have accent shields or, I don't know, an engineering team, something that you can also share with your teammates.
Yeah, zombie cruisers are pretty much useless in team PvP, so don't use it. Anything else?
What about
Don't-
engineers using unique ships? Like, I'm using the Vesta, and that has proven to be a very good engineering vessel for when I'm either on my own or I'm in teams. Are there any other ships you would recommend?
Galore.
Galore.
Galore is
The
very
Galore.
good because it can deal
Galore
damage
is-
and tank.
Galore is one of the best out
You
there.
can potentially have the Recluse, but that's built more for as a healer than a tank.
Mm.
Recluse has awesome buff layout for a tank
Mhm.
healer.
What about
that's
the Jemadar Dreadnought Cruiser?
no.
No.
He's more tactically oriented.
Mhm.
Galore and the Recluse are outside these regular sea store ships the best engineer ships you can obtain.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. Anything else?
What about powers of other ones like acetone beam and
No.
missile sea destruction?
No.
No. No. If you're in a ship, say the Odyssey, then you won't really be dealing damage, so you might be able to use your tactical slots for other abilities. But for the most part, there isn't really anything special that's used for tanking in terms of universal consoles. I mean, Trekker
Or
uses
healing.
the subspace jump, and that's just to get out of the way. But
It helps.
again, yeah, you can really just put anything you like in terms of universal consoles. There's nothing really special that will help you.
Oh, the Tokyo Battle Cruiser.
That's definitely
Yeah.
a good one as well.
Yeah.
You can potentially use the Bulwark and possibly a Monbosh, because that's almost an equivalent to the Gallo. And
Well,
the
Mombash
Herogen.
is a direct copy of Vorta battle cruiser, so
Which can
it's
tank decently.
yeah, it can tank, but it's more tactically oriented than to
Indeed.
tank.
There is also potential for the Herogen Apex, but again, a bit more tactically based than most cruisers are. But doing damage in a cruiser can be very useful because, as mentioned before, you can draw attention to yourself, and if you can tank, then it's a very good asset to the team because you'll be killing the enemies and you'll be absorbing their fire at the same time.
Okay, I think we're done for today for this MACO engineering sessions, and I'll see you guys next time.